Nothing says summer like a pina colada. It's the ultimate vacation drink. But while we're still in slow sipping cocktail season, I thought I'd make a more weather appropriate version. Today I'll be showing you how I made my clarified version of a pina colada. If you're a fan of this channel, you know that I take part in Dry January every year. And while I appreciate all of the zero proof spirits, I'm very excited to have an alcoholic cocktail, and in particular, this alcoholic cocktail. And since it's been a while since I've indulged in any alcohol, just 1 or 2 drinks makes me feel, honestly, the worst the next day. And that's why I'm really excited for today's sponsor, ZBiootics. ZBiootics is a pre-alcohol probiotic that produces an enzyme similar to what your liver produces to break down the alcohol byproducts responsible for that rough morning after a couple of drinks. And if you're like me and just don't have the time to lay in bed for an extra couple hours the next morning, I really recommend giving ZBiootics a try. All you need to do is drink 1 bottle of ZBiootics before having your first alcoholic drink. Continue to pace yourself and drink responsibly, and you'll wake up feeling refreshed in the morning. Wow, that actually kind of tastes good. It's very pleasant and definitely doesn't linger, so it's not going to get in the way of the flavor of whatever drink you're trying to have or glass of wine. This is actually my first ever sponsored video, and I'm so happy to be working with ZBiootics. It kind of brings my 2 favorite things together, science and drinking, although my drinks will not make you feel good the next day. You can get 15% off your first order of ZBiootics pre-alcohol probiotic by clicking the link in the description and using my code WePearl at checkout. Go to zbiootics.com/WePearl or scan the QR code on the screen and get 15% off your first order. Thank you, ZBiootics, for sponsoring today's video. The first thing you'll need to do is make the pineapple juice. You guys have seen me do this countless times. Essentially, it's just chopping up a pineapple, throwing it in a Vitamix, and then just pouring it through a fine mesh sieve, collecting the juice, and there you have it, your pineapple juice. The one thing that I'm doing differently this time is I'm actually going to be acid adjusting the pineapple juice. Pineapple juice on its own can be a bit sweet, it's a little bit flat. It feels like it's just lacking a bit of zing. That's why a lot of people actually add lime juice to their pina coladas, even though it's not a classic ingredient. I'm not going to be taking this pineapple juice quite to the acidity of lime juice. I just want to kind of make the flavors pop a little bit more. I'm going to be adding 1.5 grams of citric acid and 1/2 gram of malic acid. I have just over a cup of pineapple juice, and I'm just going to add these acids to it, stir them around until the acid crystals have dissolved. If you're thinking of citric acid, you're mostly thinking of lemon, which is like a little bit sweet. And when you're thinking of malic acid, I always think of a really unripe green apple, and that's that acid. So when you mix them together, usually you get some version of lime juice, although it would be in a much higher ratio to add to something like pineapple juice, but I think it just really needs just a little tweaking, because I don't want to take it outside of pineapple juice. I still want it to taste like pineapple juice. The reason that I'm adding more acid is because I am clarifying. I do think that pineapple juice would benefit from having additional acid added to it anyway, but because I am going to be doing the clarification process on it, it definitely needs to have a lot more acidity. 1, because it needs to break the emulsion of the coconut milk, so it just needs to have higher acid for that. And number 2, since it is going through the clarification process, you still want that to have a little bit of its zippiness. I don't want it to be too acrid because I'm not shaking it, and usually when you're adding acid to cocktails, you're shaking it. That's to aerate the acids, and it helps them to not be as intense. But since this is going to be a stirred cocktail, I don't want it to be overly acidic, which is why I'm not going crazy with the acids. So now that my pineapple juice is acidulated, I'm going to be adding some coconut milk to it. To my cup of pineapple juice, I'm going to be adding 1/2 cup of coconut milk. And this is just regular full-fat coconut milk, not sweetened or anything else. I'm going to mix these 2 together, and you'll start to see it already curdling. This is what you want when you're clarifying with coconut milk, or any milk in general. Those curds are what's going to pull all of the color and tannins out of whatever you're clarifying. Once I've mixed those 2 together, I'm just going to put that mixture in the fridge, and I'm going to let it sit overnight. The next morning, I'm going to take out our mixture of pineapple and coconut milk, and then I'm going to pour it through a nut milk bag until it starts running clear. Since I let it sit so long overnight, it's running clear pretty quickly. From there, I'm just going to swap out the bowl for a new one and then just continue to pour the cloudy juice until it becomes clear. Now that my pineapple and coconut component is all set, I'm going to work on the rum. So typically for a pina colada, you're going to want to use a light rum, usually a Puerto Rican rum. But for this winter version, I thought it would be nice to use something a little more hearty. I'm going to use plantation pineapple rum. And to give this pina colada even more of a coconut flavor, I'm going to be fat washing this rum with coconut oil. This is a really simple process. Pretty much I'm just taking 1 cup of pineapple rum and then I'm adding 2 tablespoons of coconut oil to it. And when you're using coconut oil, you want to make sure that you're using the unrefined virgin coconut oil. If you use the refined one, you're not going to get that flavor and that taste. Since coconut oil solidifies at a pretty high temperature, this really doesn't take long to do. Stick this in the refrigerator for, I don't know, about a half an hour or so. In a half an hour, I'll pull it out of the fridge and then it'll have a nice little coconut fat cap on top that I can easily remove. So fat washing the rum does 2 things. People say that it doesn't add any texture. I kind of feel like it does add a little bit of texture. It always tastes a little richer, a little bit rounder of a mouthfeel to me. It also softens up the edges. So just like I'm using the clarification process to kind of soften up the acids and acidulated pineapple juice that I made with the coconut milk, it's kind of doing the same thing with the rum. So it's making it a little softer, a little easier to blend with other flavors. The last part is just making the cocktail. To my mixing glass, I'm adding 2 ounces of the clarified pineapple base. Next, I'm adding 1 ounce of the coconut washed pineapple rum. I'll add the ice and I'll mix these 2 together for about 30 seconds and then I'll strain into my rocks glass over a large ice cube. And of course for garnish, I'm going to go with the classic cherry, although in my version, I'm using my homemade brandy cherries. And this is it. My clarified pina colada wintertime, I don't know. My wintertime clarified pina colada. And it's delicious. And it would be delicious in the summertime too, but it definitely feels more winter appropriate. It's juicy, but not too juicy. It's nice and round. It's got those coconut aromas, but it's not overpowering. The pineapple is just right. Man, it's really good. I really, really hope you give it a try because this is probably one of my favorite things that I've made this year. Although it is only February. And it's my first cocktail video of the year, but you know. It's still really, really good and highly recommend it.